Well, hey there, fellow lapidarists. David Johnson here with Superior Lapidary, and I'm going to get into the second part of a project I had started earlier. I replaced the motor, a 3/4 horsepower motor on my Frantom saw. Now I got to get to phase 2. I'll show you. All right, well here's phase 2. So I've got the motor on. Now I got a problem right here. You can see the bearing inside here is got a lot of play in it. So it's not tragic. The saw cuts like a dream, but I guess I would rather not create further damage, so that's got to come off. So I'll get at it. I take the blade off, and then I'll get back to you when I start taking this arbor apart. I'm going to pull the couple of these belts off of this pulley just to reduce the tension and stuff that's on there. There. Need an Allen wrench to get that off. Crap. Alright, guess I gotta get a hammer. I can't really pry on that one. It's the inside one looks like an aluminum pulley. I got a little room there. Well, that one's on tighter than it was before, but that's all. There's the easiest part done. Now, hopefully I don't destroy this, taking this off. Now this took me about 7 minutes to get that pulley off. If I had been a little bit smarter, I would have taken some emery cloth or a little grinder or something and worked on that shaft and done that ahead of time. That would have saved me a whole lot of work. I ended up doing that later, you'll see. Getting there. There. It was that simple. All right, so there we have it. This outer bearing feels pretty good. I don't feel any play in or out, up or down, in any direction. Let's see about unbolting some of this stuff now. I gotta unbolt all these things. There's like 8 bolts out here and a couple inside. So the first 4 bolts here just hold this bearing on, it looks like. Hopefully that comes off easier than everything else did. So maybe I'll start with these 4. Try that. Nothing like getting a good look at somebody's arm while they're working and nothing else, but that's just all I got room to show you. You know, there's actually a little room for adjustment here. If you're trying to adjust your blade, this is one place you can do it. I'm not going to tap hard. I don't want to ruin the bolt. Yeah, the grease in there just helps the oil from seeping out. Okay. So there's that. It's on there fairly tight. I'm not going to be able to just pull that off. I'm going to try it one time with the claw hammer. Just see, I don't want to break that flange. Okay, so there's that. Now I got to get into the other four. Yeah, the tops of these are a screwdriver head. Of course, the hardest one, I can't. It's easier than I thought. That one came loose nice. My stubby little arms are not happy with this one. Okay, that's getting it off. All three pieces, nut and two washers. Get the groove cleared out. That one don't want to go. Okay, that one's coming out. Well, I got all 4, 5, 6, 4, 8, 10 bolts out. And the thing's sitting here. Hey, there's a Zerk fitting on this side of the Arbor too. They could have put it on this side, but no, they put it on this side. Something else under here? Fudge mother. Alright folks, thanks for coming along with the journey with me so far. I'm taking 10 bolts out, the shaft seems loose. Something is holding the Arbor down to that blue square rail there. We'll find out tomorrow when I come back and work on it again. All right, I'm back. Um, Still, it's kind of odd that this thing is so tight in here. I thought it would be loose, but this flange is still fairly snug to the wall. I mean, it slides easy, but what I did, I cleaned all the grease off of here. It looks like an axle grease or something you put in through your Zerk fitting. And I found a couple of Allen heads and a couple of Allen screws holding at least his ring on, I don't know if it's the whole thing, to the shaft. So I had to go find the right size little Allen wrench. It's a tiny one, I'm not sure what size it is. Like well machined stuff, boy, that's neat. It holds tight, pops loose fairly easy. I'll do with that loose. Maybe I can get a little further. I'm taking this apart. I don't know. It's time for a hammer and a big punch. So I got to get a punch. I'm not going to use my chisel for this. Use a heavier punch and a heavier hammer, but this is what I got. Could have left the 4 bolts holding this flange in to start with. This might take a little bit. Let's hit the carriage. So I got to get the carriage out of the way. Alright, I'm going to sneak a couple bolts back in there just to keep that a little tighter because I'm not making progress now. If I mushroom out this edge, it's not going to fit through here. I'm going to grab a file and file that little ding out of there. Alright, I'll get back to you. If I don't catch that now, I won't be able to get to it later. Alright, I gotta go find a BFH, folks. This little hammer ain't doing it. I think I got one somewhere. Yikes. You know, I'm losing a lot of power from the hit. this wall flexing, it's just tin in here. You know, if I could brace it up against something hard like a concrete embankment, this would come out a little easier. I just don't happen to have a concrete embankment right now. Nothing. I might have to just pound this back out and run some emery cloth around there. Maybe I should have done that in the beginning. So I'm going to try and tap it out, but I gotta get a better swing. I don't know how the heck I'm going to do that. Well, I'm going to try though. I'm going to flip the saw around so I can work on from the other side. Maybe I can knock that back out. Well, if I come up with a solution to this little fix I'm in right here, I'll let you know. I'll describe it to you, whatever. But I'm not going to be able to show it to you. I can't burn up 10,000 hours of film, and you don't want to watch it either. So I'll get back to you when I get this problem fixed and show you what I can. All right, quick update of where I'm at today. You can see that I've got the shaft out of there. My son came over, gave me a little hand with that, and it was a couple of steps we had to do. So here's the shaft. It wasn't going to come out. We tried pounding on it this way. So what we did is we reversed and put the nut back on, and pounded it back in to where I could get at the end of the shaft. Took the end of this shaft and took a grinder to it and just did a little grinding around here. You can see all the grease that's on here, so hence the gloves. And once we did that, then this pounded through fairly easy, and on its way through it grabbed the bearing on the inside, the inboard bearing, and I'll take this back apart and I'll show you, and it pulled the bearing out, which is fine because I had to do that anyway. So I'm going to have to take this bearing off. Let's see if we can show you what's wrong here. You know, they get a lot worse than this, but this is one of the reasons you guys might be getting bad cuts on your saws, is one of your bearings or both your bearings in your arbor are bad. I'm happy that these can be replaced, so I got to order that up. Yeah, but I'm going to take a few minutes, pull this out, and we'll look at the inside of that, and I'll show you the whole arbor then. Alright, so here's the outer piece, nothing real special. This bearing is still really good, so I'm not going to have to replace this outer bearing. Happy about that, and you can see the remnants of the grease in there. And there is your arbor, less the shaft. Here's the inboard side where the bearing gets installed. So I've just got to figure out the correct order to do that. So I'm going to clean this out so we can see and inspect that. This side, there's nothing going on here. The shaft just goes through there, and the other bearing is out here. And again, there's the zerk for putting a little grease in there, which I'll have to do now and then. So yeah, I'm going to clean this out, and we'll get another look at her. Alright, so I cleaned up the arbor itself a little bit. If you look inside there, let's see, wrong end. Look inside there, you can see the stop for the bearing. So the bearing goes in that far and stops right there. Also, what I found out after having taken this apart is on the inboard side here and here, not quite 180 degrees from each other, they're angled a little bit up. We've got some Allen screws to hold the bearing in place there too. So make sure when you take yours apart that you find these little Allen screws, get the right size. This thing doesn't tell me what size it is, but it's a small one. And make sure they're not holding anything together. So now the next thing I've got to do is take that bearing off the shaft and get a replacement one. Like, check a little local bearing house, otherwise Highland Park sells them. I might just go that route because I got to get something else from them. So we'll see, but I'll tell you that in a few minutes. And one more thing just to show you the inside of the machine. There is a full gasket on there that goes against that, but it's in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to leave it. But there is a gasket there. You can certainly scrape that off and make a new one if you like. Okay, I got one more thought I need to share with everybody. Since I got the saw part, the Arbor's out, I went into my scrap pile and grabbed an Arbor, which is actually in ill repair itself, from my 30-inch Covington. And I just thought I'd set it in there and see how it goes. It is almost perfect vertical, you know, the up and down orientation of it. The only real problem is, if you can see where the blade goes, right here, and you line it up directly with the blade guard, it's out, or it's inboard a little bit. So, it wouldn't be perfectly appropriate to use this on this saw, but if you're in a jam, you can get these brand new from Covington. They're not that expensive. There might be someone else who sells a more appropriate one. The bolt holes don't quite line up either. Right here. They're close, but not quite. So you would have to re-drill your tank and make bolts fit. So it wouldn't be a great replacement, but it would work. It really would work. I can make that work. The blade would be moved an inch inboard, so your blade guard, you know, maybe take half of it off or do something like that. Feels like it's bolted on. And then you just have to watch out so you don't cut off your carriage, because you certainly could. I'd have to look and see if the carriage itself goes past the blade. That might be the one hang up. Oh yeah, no problem. No problem. You've got an inch and a half distance in there. So yeah, seriously, it moves it in about an inch. Heck, even the mounting holes are right on this bar, so you could drill through and mount it onto this bar. You just have to get the angle right. Actually, you might have to oblong the hole that the shaft goes through to raise it up just a hair. So it's not perfect replacement, but you can make it work. Sorry for all the babbling, but I'm just kind of spitting as we go here. Okay, we're going to take one more look at the shaft. One more thing I found on here, and this is the inner bearing, the one towards the inside of the saw. If you can see right here, and right there are two more Allen screws to hold that in. So I did back those out now. They weren't backed out when we hammered this out. Now I got to try and get that bearing off of the shaft, and the way my little vise is set up, I've got to get rid of this little red cover. It's only 2 screws. There's a couple of slot-headed screws, one on either side. And again, they use star washers on this. This has probably never been apart before, I'm judging. Except by me. I did take it apart and cleaned it out. So it's nothing more than just a metal cover, steel cover. So now, inside here you can see there are Allen screws there and there to hold this flange onto that shaft. I don't need to do anything with those. So flip it upside down, we're going to put it in the vise. Don't hold it too tight, I don't want to scratch it. That's about as good as I can get with this vise. And I can't hit real hard, I don't want to break the vise. It's moving. There, that's up. So I think what I'll do is I'll just emery cloth the end of the shaft and get that shined up again. And this bearing I ordered today from Highland Park. The picture of the one they have looks exactly like what I have here, so hopefully that'll show up, and yeah, then we'll put that back together whenever. All right, it's been a long week waiting for this package to arrive. Put a little order into Highland Park. Got a couple of things. I got more peanuts to deal with, but all right, first thing I'm getting is 3 6-inch 80 grit cups. So I got 3 of those. I can make some bigger spheres now. That's pretty awesome. All right, here we are. Feels right. Looks right. There, got that bearing in for the Frantom saw. Let's get to installing this. Oh, man. All right, well, we got the parts, we got the saw. Now I got to figure out how to put it together. Shouldn't be too complicated. Hopefully it goes together quicker than it came apart. So step 1, I believe I got to take this brand new bearing. It's got this big shoulder on it, which is nice. And again, there's 2 hex screws in there that hold it onto the shaft. Inside of the housing, there likewise are 2 hex screws. It's nice, that fits right in. Yeah, the height looks good. So we'll tighten these up. The bearing doesn't get to move anywhere, and there's no adjustment. Just want them tight enough so that they stay in place. We don't got to horse this down completely. All right, there's that. Now I believe I've got to put the this piece on and the outer bearing. Hopefully. I haven't tried this yet. I'm wondering if this shaft will just slide in or not. Sticking out a little. One of the hex keys at least is sticking out a little. I don't want to put this in too far. I just want to see if it feels like it's going to go. I'm a little skeptical. Yeah, I think it's going to take some hammering on this end to get this to go through. And I hope I don't destroy the bearing. So that's got to wait a little bit. I'm going to set this aside somewhere. I kind of like the Zerk fitting at the top. That's probably easiest for me to get at here. So. Put the Zerk fitting to the top. All right, now we got 4 shorter bolts, and there's 4 more holes you gotta put them through. All right, those are all started. Now I gotta get to the two vertical ones. Alright, these vertical ones are a little stubborn. There we go. So I guess my tip for you, if you're out looking at a saw that somebody has for sale, and they say something like, oh, I've rebuilt it, and you happen to see a fresh coat of paint on it, that might not mean it's rebuilt. It might just be shined up, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe everything's in good shape, I don't know. But rebuilt, they should be able to tell you that they went through the inner and outer bearings, checked them out or replaced them, whatever was necessary. Checked it to see if it was all lined up. Have a nice straight blade on there that works. That all of the mechanisms work, the drive mechanism, the switches, that everything has been attended to. Okay, I think I've tightened these up good enough. I'm going to put a wrench on these. I'll get back to you after that's tight. Okay, I came pretty close to getting things done. I got the blade on, and the blade is too far that way. So that arbor shaft has got to go further that way. So I'm going to take the blade off and just see what I can do. I don't know. So that's it. And then I'll have a trick for you as far as putting on blades on if the blade has a bushing. So stay tuned for that. Okay. I'm going to go get a hard plastic hammer. That's I think what I'm going to do. All right, give me 5 minutes, I'll be back. Now it's just barely holding in there. I gotta see, visualize the other side now. If I have forgotten anything, I'm going to be really upset. The only other thing I could do is maybe loosen some bolts up, and maybe it's a little crooked in there and it has to self-align. Okay, got those a little loose, so if we need to realign it a little, there, who's the genius now? All I did was loosen up these 4 inside bolts. Oh, that feels nice. Feels awesome. I just got to see it from the other end and make sure I'm in far enough. I think I am. I got to get these here. Alright, there's those. Alright, I'm going to sharpen the blade. Okay folks, here's where I am. I got the range set in place. I just started the shaft in. One thing I did not mention was before I put the shaft in at all, this time, I took and I checked for any little burrs, and there were a couple of tiny ones, and I filed them off, and then I spent about 10 minutes with some fine sandpaper just giving this a good once over the shaft. So now, you can see it's much better. That's what it's supposed to do. That is bottomed out. So before I get too far, let me just put this on here. There's two little screws that hold this on. I'll put those on after. I'm going to stick the blade on here and just see where I am in relation to this tin shield. And that didn't move. It's bolted down pretty tight. So it definitely came from this end somewhere. And then I'll show you a trick that I think everybody should know that has to do this sort of work. Alright, in the center of this blade, in this particular application, there is a little bushing that has to go in there so it sits in the shaft correctly. Now, at least for me, I'm apt to knock this bushing out when I put it in. I'm just going to take this little chisel here because it's convenient. So if you're lucky, you could just reach in, put the blade on, and the bushing will stay in place. I've got a little trick I'm going to show you, just to help out. Here I've got just a little cheap magnet. I'll put it on there so it's just over the bushing, but not covering the hole at all. So as I put the blade on, I will have that hold the bushing on. I could put two on here, it'd be really nice. Also, I sharpened this blade up, I whacked it with a file. It's a lot easier for me doing it in front of me than reaching into the saw and do it. So most of you folks are doing it in the saw. Try it sitting down in a chair. Honestly, it was easy peasy that way. So now that I've got the magnet on there, careful anyway. Feels good. Anyway, I put the blade on. I've got the big fat washer on there. And it's still too far out. What the freak? I have no idea why it's doing that. No idea at all. This and this, the Arbor, the thing that holds the Arbor shaft, can only go to one place. And they're tied on this tin. They're on tight and flat. The bushing, or the bearing, went all the way in, unless there's a problem there. It's not backwards. I didn't bend it. Alright, we're going to take the blade off, pull that shaft out. Oh, crud. It makes me very unhappy at this point. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the magnet trick I did on here. And the bushing is still in there, sitting pretty. worked out well. I'm going to leave that magnet right on here for now. I got to get it in certainly 1/4 of an inch, if not 3/8 of an inch. Okay, problem solved. This collar goes on this shaft and slides, it moves. It is held on by 2 Allen screws and these great big holes, let's see, right there. So I loosened them up and I was able to tap this in. That would bring the blade further outboard. So I've tapped it in as far as I think I can. I'm going to put it together. If I get it in what I believe is the right spot, then I just have to tighten these set screws and I'm back in business. So what I thought was a horrible problem I couldn't figure out was actually rather simple. You can adjust the in and out of your blade, inboard or outboard, by moving this inside collar on your Frantom. And there is where your Allen screw goes. So, I'll put her back together and I'll show you when I get it closer together. As I always say, these are real world problems and I'm a real world guy and I've got a certain amount of tools and a certain amount of knowledge, and if you combine them just right, sometimes you get lucky. So, keep trying. Hey, I'm back. Got the blade in there. I have taken this apart many times, put it back together just as many times, and finally just gave a little tweak to the metal in back. So, I don't know, must have got bent somehow, but she's running good now. But I've kind of made a problem for myself. I'll turn it on and see it spins just fine. I haven't cut any rocks with this since I put the brand new motor on. But watch that spinning one more time. Yeah, it's going the wrong way. So I have to get into the electrical box, the connections to this, and find the directions on how to turn it in the opposite direction. It is simply changing a couple of wires. Not so simple for me. I've got stuff reaching down there. That's all I gotta say. Okay, I'm getting closer. I took the 6 and the 8 wire and changed one from here to there and then that other one back to there. And now let's turn it on and see how it goes. 1, 2, 3, go! Alright. That little bit of noise you're hearing, that is from that idler pulley right there, so I'll work on that. Okay, well this is going to be the last clip of this repair video that I got going on with my Frantom. It's a success, everything's back together, things are working well, the saw is cutting good, and I got a couple other projects started. I got my high-speed sphere machine back there, just got a couple of 6-inch cups, and I got a stone to put in there. That's going to be pretty cool. It's a piece of anorthosite that's just needs to be made a little rounder. So, there's the saw. That loud noise you had, one of my pulleys was loose, the drive pulley on the motor. So all I did was tighten that up. Boom. I'd love to show you inside, but yeah, that's not going to happen. But happy now my Frantom is back in order. I have one last thing to show you. It's a gigantic piece of Mary Ellen Jasper in my 30-inch saw that somebody brought up to me. And I'm going to cut that, not quite in half, but I'm going to make 2 pretty big spheres out of it. So that's going to be really, really interesting. I hope it works out. The one on the far end will probably be the biggest sphere I've ever made. Anyway, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe if you want to see all sorts of various videos on weird stuff. Well, a lot of it's in my rock shop here, Superior Lapidary, up in the most northern part of Wisconsin. So, until then, keep rocking.